Right. Recording progress.
All right. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a couple of minutes. Rachel, can you go ahead and spotlight me?
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Peter. All right, everyone. I see a few folks still trickling in, so I'm just going to give it another minute. Thank you for your patience. We had a couple of technology difficulties tonight, so thank you for waiting. I'm just going to give it 1 minute.
I see that. That's why the music was a little delayed, so that's the reason.
Can everyone take a minute and just mute your microphones? All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome tonight, everyone, for coming to tonight's listening session for paratransit for the ride. We're thrilled to have you all here. Just a quick run through of the agenda. First, we're going to go over some Zoom housekeeping. Then we're going to hear a couple of updates from Michelle Styler, the Chief of Paratransit Services for the ride. And then we're going to have a discussion about the ride, safety, paratransit services, communications. Really, we just want to hear from you. What's going well, what's not working, what's going okay. We want to hear everything, both positive and negative. And then we'll wrap up. Just some quick Zoom instructions. We have ASL interpreting today. Our ASL interpreters are Linda Gregorio and Sharon Mendez. To view their video, you can find the interpreter's video in the gallery. Then in the top right corner of the interpreter's video, you click the ellipses, and then you click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. We also will be spotlighting speakers throughout the meeting. So if you keep your video in spotlight view, you should be able to see the speakers. Next slide. We have CART captioning for tonight's meeting. Our captioner is Denise Gracia. To view closed captioning, click the closed caption with the CC icon. Just a quick tip, if you click and drag the closed captioning, you can move its positioning in the meeting window to wherever works best for you. To adjust the caption size, you click the upward arrow next to the start video, stop video options. Then you click video settings, accessibility, and you can move the slider up and down to adjust the caption size. Next slide. Language accessibility. We have Spanish interpreting for tonight's video, tonight's meeting, which we're very excited about. Our Spanish interpreters are Anne Weisblatt and Miguel Moreno. We offer interpretation during this meeting. So in your meeting controls, you click the interpretation, the small globe icon, click the language that you would like to hear. And I'm going to turn it over to our Spanish interpreter now to just run through these instructions in Spanish real quick. Is there something I need to do so Miguel can hop on? Miguel?
This is Megan. I can hear it, but I'm in the English channel.
You're in the
Yes, I can hear you, but I'm signed into the English channel, not the Spanish one.
So if you hit the original audio, that's where is, I believe, this meeting, not the English channel or the Spanish. I don't know why it has two options. Miguel? Sorry, everyone, just give us a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm not entirely certain how to fix this. This is what happens when you try new things. I think what we have to do is click the English room, but when we click the English room, we have Spanish interpreters. So if everyone who needs English could make sure that they're clicked into the original audio channel and see if that fixes the problem. Megan, does that fix the problem?
Yeah, that works. Just, I think if anyone's in the Spanish channel, they may not hear interpretation.
Is there anyone in the Spanish channel currently? I think they have to click the English button to hear Spanish because something happened with the settings.
Okay, it's working.
Hello?
I checked.
Miguel, is that you?
Hey, Jessica, this is Glenda Campbell. I stopped into the Spanish room and I was able to hear her in Spanish very well.
Excellent. Thank you, Glenda, for checking into that for me. Okay. Does Miguel want to hop into the original audio room though, so that he can read through the instructions on how to get to the Spanish channel quickly? Or Anne?
Or maybe Glenda can just read it.
Or Glenda can just read it? Jennifer's outing you, Glenda.
Did you want me to read something?
Yes, can you read the Spanish
The
instructions?
Spanish one?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, I was in the Spanish. Did you want me to read something in Spanish?
Yes, can you please read the Spanish instructions under language accessibility for us?
Yes. Buenas tardes. Voy a hablar sobre la accesibilidad que tenemos para el idioma en español. Ofrecemos interpretación en español durante esta junta. Para escoger el audio en inglés o en español, tendrá que picar o escanear el botón de interpretación, al cual tiene una imagen de un mundo. Cuando le pique la interpretación, por favor, de escoger el idioma al cual le gustaría oír. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Glenda. We appreciate you jumping in there. All right, everyone, thanks for your patience as we sorted that out. This is what happens when you try new things, and sometimes things take a minute to click. So we'll get better at this as we go. Please use the chat for technical questions, or if you have any questions about the features of this meeting, we do have someone monitoring the chat and they will be able to get back to you. Next slide. This meeting will be recorded and it will be posted on the MBTA's website. Your microphone and webcam are automatically disabled when you enter the meeting. The meeting will be open to questions and answered at the end of the presentation, and there will be, I believe, a survey that gets sent out. Next slide. All right, now without further ado, we're going to get to the good part of the meeting. So first we're going to hear from Michelle Seiler, Chief of Paratransit, and then we'll turn it over to talk. All right, go ahead, Michelle. Take it
All right,
away.
well, thank you. I'm clear now, right? Thank you for sharing your night with us. I am going to speak in a limited manner so we can afford enough opportunity and time for everyone, the question and answer session. What I'd like to do is just share some brief information with you with what we have been up to. First and foremost is communications. So Megan Ackerman, the Deputy Director of Communications, has been working closely with our team, system-wide accessibility, customer experience, and customer technology to improve how we communicate with our customers. Some of the 2023 efforts underway include tracking ongoing customer concerns and developing materials to address trending concerns and issues, providing information in new and existing self-service options in the best format possible for our customers, web page updates more often using available data and best practices. We are looking at providing more frequent seat drops for reminders, sharing information, and for housekeeping items. We are also looking to create more physical communications to share at events, organizations, and agencies to pass along to their constituents. Finally, we are also reviewing all areas of accessibility, including translations, and we intend to share this information in a variety of formats. You can go to the next slide, please. I wanted to speak to track processes. We have heard from some of our customers concerns as it relates to access to information regarding your trips. Track does have processes in place to address emergencies. Our reservationists are able to respond to the majority of inquiries. They're also able to escalate to a supervisor to forward information immediately to dispatch. And we have weekly meetings with service providers and dispatch to improve coordination and communication between track and our service providers and to share driver concerns. If we can go to the next slide. With respect to what to do in off hours, if you have safety concerns, we always start with contacting 911 for emergencies. From 911, your calls will be forwarded as needed. They could be routed to the transit police, to our operations center, to customer service, directly to track. In addition, we have information available on Where's My Ride on IVR if it's not an emergency. You can contact track. You can contact customer service. And I also wanted to take the opportunity to share with you some updates actually. We've made some internal adjustments that now update the estimated time of arrivals every 3 minutes. Further improvements are coming. We will offer an optional text message update on ETAs, and we are adjusting our phone system to allow for an automatic update. They will recognize your phone number and push out an updated ETA when you call, providing ease of access to more current information and freeing up those lines with our reservationists. You can go to the next slide. Okay. Key contact information I include in every presentation, but here I'd actually like to add just one more thing, and I apologize, I'm trying to speak quickly, but we have added a new standard non-dedicated service provider that you will start seeing communications about. It's users. And what they're doing is they're allowing us to offer another option to support our service providers that are struggling with staffing. And we can speak to that in there will be additional handouts, and I can speak to that later after the Q&A session. And that is actually all I have with respect to slides.
Okay, so now we're going to turn it over to the question and answer portion. I'm just going to give it a minute to get spotlighted. Oh, great. So if you have any questions, comments, we want to hear from you about anything paratransit related stuff that Michelle talked about, if there's anything else that's going on. So to indicate that you have a question or a comment, please use Zoom's raised hand feature, which is located at the bottom of the screen. And then when you raise your hand, it'll alert me that you'd like to speak, and we will spotlight you and prompt you to unmute in the order of which you raise your hand. So you click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, or Alt-Y on your keyboard. Or if you're on the phone, you can click *9 to raise your hand or *6 to unmute. So do we have any comments? It looks like we already got some hands raised. Peter, why don't we get started with you? Hold on, Peter, just give us a minute to spotlight you. All right. Take it away, Peter.
Yeah, I have a question about what I received in the mail yesterday. I guess there's a new ride provider. But for someone like me, I need to be able to use the regular ride vans. I don't fit easily onto just any van. And the type of lift and the tie down system that's on the ride van is what I really need, because a lot of tie down systems will not hold my chair. But the ride one does, because it tightens up as you move, which is the best, and not all transportation services have that. So I have a concern there. I want to.
Thank- I'm sorry, go ahead, Peter.
So I guess my concern is, it seemed like from the letter, when I call up for a ride, I could arbitrarily be assigned to this other company that may not have the specifics to actually transport me safely. That concerns me.
Thank you, Peter. Can I ask Elizabeth to speak to that for us? Do we have to unmute Elizabeth? Isn't Elizabeth here?
Elizabeth Weisner.
Okay, all right. Well, we will note that information on the file. You will not be sent a vehicle that can't accommodate you. Is that Mike?
No, this is David Hatch. I can speak to this.
Thank you, David.
Yeah,
David, give us a second to spotlight you, David.
yeah, no problem.
Can we spotlight David, or is David's camera off?
My camera's off.
Oh, okay, then we
Yeah.
don't have to spotlight. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a valid concern. Mobility aid devices are being considered when identifying who to shift and when. So this shouldn't come up. Obviously, if it does unintentionally come up, reach out to us, but this shouldn't be an issue.
Well, the problem is, if I've already got a ride scheduled, because during the summer I go out on Saturdays, and they send a van that can't accommodate me, which they've done in the past, by the way. They've sent a regular car for me, even though it clearly states that I need a van. The problem is that what happens is then the driver calls, reports it, I call to find out the status, and then I get the runaround because they say, oh, we have to cancel your ride, then rebook you as a new ride. So they put you through this process. And I spoke about this process that happened to me a while back at a very early meeting where they sent the car. I called up. One person told me not to worry, they were sending someone. They didn't show up. I called up again. They said, oh, you know what the problem was? They forgot to book a new ride for you. They're supposed to. And I went into, so that's my concern.
Peter, can I ask when it most recently happened to you? When this occurred?
It was last summer. It was a while back.
Okay. Okay.
But I spoke about it at, I think, one of the very first meetings I started to attend.
Mhm.
And you were at that meeting.
Yes, yes, yes. I just wanted to see if it had occurred since then.
No, I haven't
because-
been, I haven't actually gone out because of the weather. I can't go out in this weather.
We capture, we're making every attempt to capture the, your needs, and you should not be sent a vehicle that can't accommodate your needs and your mobility device. And we'd be happy to follow up with you separately offline with respect to your concerns here.
Okay,
But I appreciate you alerting us to that. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Next up, we have Laura Sabadini.
Hi,
Hey, Laura, just give us 1 second to spotlight you.
no problem.
Okay,
Laura's camera's off, so I can't spotlight.
Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Hi, just to let you know, I also have a cover photo that says hashtag COVID isn't over, hashtag wear a mask. I am a person who is qualified to use the ride, eligible to use the ride, technically has a ride account, do not use the ride because the ride is not accessible or safe for me. I'm not going to talk about all the reasons why. What I'm going to ask about today is, or mention today, is my concern that the MBTA, the ride, made a decision right around New Year's holiday to drop the requirement for passengers to wear masks on the ride. My understanding is that drivers still need to wear them, but passengers do not. I think this is a mixed message. I think this is unsafe. I think that you are putting us into situations where riders are going to have to negotiate with one another about whether or not masks should be worn in that exact moment on that exact ride. And I think that is a recipe for conflict. And I don't think it's something that you should be putting on the passengers. I think that we should have mask mandates on the ride for everyone.
I understand that, and I can tell you we feel strongly about that as well, which is why we carried that mask policy as long as we did. We were given to understand that we were not compliant with the terms of FTA defined complimentary service, that if masks were not required on fixed route service, we could not require them on the ride. Our efforts to ensure customer safety, we were able to continue to require our drivers to wear masks. And that's what we could do. That's the best that we could do.
Okay, well, thank you
That
for
was
getting that on the
FTA.
record.
Yeah, that was FTA guidance. Thank you.
And
We
so
do share your concerns.
Laura, Artag, and myself also encourage you to share this message directly with folks over at FTA. So please.
I appreciate that so much, Jessica, but you got to understand, I do not need more administrative homework, but thank you. If there is an opportunity for me to easily share it with the FTA, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your concerns.
All right. Who's up next? This has never happened in the history of a ride forum, guys.
If there aren't any questions, I would ask either David, oh, we have something. I see a hand raised.
I knew people were just slow to raise the hands and I knew they were coming up. Just give them a moment. Elizabeth?
Yes, this is Elizabeth Jean Clower. I don't have the video on. Yes, I just wanted to leave space for other people who wanted to ask questions before asking you a question, Michelle. Could you explain further, especially on a topic as important as safety in the winter, what that reality would be for that? It sounds like you're saying that someone, even if it's I've been very concerned about the implications of people being stranded, since by definition, we're talking about usually 2 hours or more, at least 1 hour, but often, as you gave our subcommittee our TAG subcommittee some data, 2 hours and more, that if I understand this correctly, you're now telling people to call 911 for a stranding emergency, even if it's not medically related in nature or imminent safety threat in the sense of a violent act, that they would be able to call 911, and then how would that work?
Okay, well, Elizabeth, I don't think it's up to me to determine or define what a customer would consider an emergency. With respect to somebody that, and again, I really, if somebody is in fear for their health, their life, if they are stranded in cold weather, but I don't really want to outline all of those scenarios. I would like to leave it to a customer to determine whether or not to call 911. But what I think we could do, and I think we should do, is work on some type of literature that we can share. We have contact information, and perhaps that's the best thing we could do is work with RTAG members on something that we can share, perhaps printed or on our website about how to make contact with us.
Oh, yes. I'd like the opportunity to clarify, Michelle. I've had a good working rapport with you and your staff,
Mhm.
but I've just found that unsatisfactory that we're all, as members of the public, we're all informed of 911 is the ultimate default, and rather than in any way requesting an explanation on what defines that level of emergency, what we've often been trying to convey as members and leaders in the disability community is that there are situations where it is of very high importance and seriousness that someone be able to get home, but it falls short of being a 911 emergency. So although you have recently it included in your slide about the MBTA police, transit police, and you've indicated to our subcommittee that there are ways that that 911 and the MBTA police have a direct line. In turn, though, I think what we are seeking that we thus far have not had is in situations like a stranding that might occur after customer service hours on Monday through Friday, or particularly during the weekend with shortened hours, or a situation where someone in a wheelchair cannot get home any other way if they're not involved in Ride Flex or are in the perimeters, out in the perimeters, and for all intents and purposes, even if they are involved in Ride Flex, they keep getting cars unavailable. We're seeking to work with you to find policy and solution on how to get those people safely home.
Elizabeth, what I would propose in the next RTAG working session, and that doesn't mean that we're not working on it before the next subcommittee meeting, but that we can work between now and the next meeting to work out those details so it's clear about escalation and how to make those phone calls and to document it somehow, whether it's on the website or to provide information to our customers. So we will work with you to clear that up a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to read from the chat real quick, a comment from Cassandra Xavier. I wear a mask and request a van. That way I have more space from the driver. I'm typically always in a vehicle alone, and that's good. I used the ride last week for the first time in a while. Thanks, Cassandra. And I just, before we call on Nora, I just want to throw out some questions to the group. So how is it going when you call track? How have your most recent bookings been? What has been your experience? We'd love to hear. Let's I'll turn it over to Nora's question, but just maybe I wanted to throw that out to the group to hear a little bit more how it's been going lately. Nora?
Hello, I'm Nora Nagel. I'm one of the co-chairs of the RTAG Executive Committee. And my question is one that I've brought up a couple of times. I have a question about service animals and the official ride vehicles, as well as service animals on the the Ride Flex program, sorry. With regard to ride vehicles, if I ever call the ride, I am sent a van and I'm the only person on it, myself and my dog. And that strikes me as such a tremendous waste of the valuable resource of a wheelchair accessible vehicle. And I don't understand why service animals don't seem to, particularly if I'm going to be the only passenger, why a smaller vehicle isn't dispatched. It just seems like a real misallocation of resources. The second question is related to Ride Flex, and I wonder, is the ride tracking service animal refusals by the Lyft and Uber carriers for Ride Flex rides?
Okay, hold on a second. I'm just scratching out so I can stay on topic here. So the first question with regard to being transported in a van, whether or not you may need it, there are many elements in there. There could be somebody that was picked up before you. That vehicle has multiple trips that they perform. They could be picking up someone after you along the route. We aim to schedule as efficiently as possible. That's sometimes a struggle given the driver shortage. And let's see, and then you were asking about Ride Flex. And David, I hate to put you on the spot again. Ride Flex, can you speak to service animals on Uber and Lyft? Now, as everybody knows, they must accommodate service animals. But I would ask David just to speak to that a little bit.
I would just chime in and say, and as everyone knows, they don't. Speaking
And
from
I would ask
perspective
that
of,
you always report that into us because it's important. And I know we follow up on any of those issues that they are required to.
oh, I meant just Uber and Lyft drivers, generally speaking, not specifically Ride Flex. I'm just wondering if rejections are being tracked on the Flex program. And if then, in fact, that information is being conveyed to Uber and Lyft as part of the program.
If that information is shared with us, we track it. We meet with Uber and Lyft weekly to discuss any service issues. And they are aware that they are required to. And yes, we do follow up on all of those. They're fully investigated. But again, I would ask, sometimes our customers don't submit or via customer service a complaint. And I would just encourage everyone to be certain that you follow up if you experience or encounter an issue like that.
Are any of those statistics available?
I can follow up with you.
I would love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have a few questions in the chat, and I again want to throw out this question. I'd love to hear from a few folks about what your experiences have been working with Track lately. When you book your trips, what have the wait times been like? What happens when you call if there's an issue? If I just want to start throwing that out there. Would love to hear from some folks on that. So a couple responses in the chat. Cassandra Xavier said it took a while to get someone. Cassandra, I would love to know a little bit more about that. What happened after they answered? Were you able to book your trip? Laura Sabadini, how do we do that? How do we follow up if we experience or encounter that? Laura, are you talking about the service animals? Service animals, okay. So how do you follow up if you experience or encounter an issue with the service animals?
Contact customer service and file a complaint. They come to us immediately and they are followed up on weekly. Actually sooner. We meet with Uber and Lyft weekly, but any issue like this is referred directly to them, and the drivers are subject to dismissal if it is found that they deny service to somebody with a service animal.
And what's the address for customer service? Laura's asking.
It is on the presentation. There is, I believe, a number for customer service. Else we can post it in the chat. Yeah, we'll post it in the chat. There it is. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. So let me just read it out loud real quick. So the number for customer service is 617-222-3200. And Cassandra said, numerous calls to get the right person to book trips. I usually book online, but I was going to a new location that wasn't in my history. Now this location is added. I can avoid the long time on phone /VP. Okay. Jennifer Smith Workman.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for joining so late. But my comment as far as making reservations in the phone services, earlier before 1 o'clock, you are able to get a representative fairly quickly. It's still after 4 o'clock. That's when the hold time comes in. To wait at least 20 minutes just for someone to answer. That was my comment on the hold time and track reservations.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All
I
right.
spoke, and again, I don't want to too much. I want to allow for time. I see hands raised. I spoke a little bit about track and our service providers. I can tell you that track is still struggling to hire reservationists and frontline employees. In light of that fact, we continue that effort. There's marketing. They're doing a lot of recruiting. We hired 2 new track reservationists just this past week. We are also focused on improving productivity. And I spoke to this a little bit in the RTAG subcommittee. But track is now focused on quality assurance, monitoring and coaching opportunities for their staff. And they are developing reports with respect to how best to deploy the workforce. We know that there are struggles during those peak periods, and Jennifer had said it very clearly that if you're able to call earlier in the day and not during those peak periods, that could help if time permits. But we are working on a number of things, including improved technology and introducing upgraded telephony. So we're hopeful, and we've seen some positive results these past couple of weeks with respect to those average speed of answers or the hold times.
Thanks, Michelle. Another question I have want to throw out to the group, and then we'll move on to Peter and then Nora, is when we've talked a little bit, as you heard from Elizabeth, about what happens when you are waiting for your ride to be picked up, and what happens when you call track. I'd love to hear from some folks who, what has it been like when you call to work out that experience? So would love to hear from folks on what happens if you're waiting on your ride and it's a little late. What has your experience been like following up with customer service in situations like that? As Elizabeth said, they can be very stressful moments, and so I'd love to hear how it's going during those situations too. Peter?
Well, I don't know how it's going recently, Jessica, but I can tell you my past experiences, it's a nightmare, especially now that you can't go on your phone and there's no app to show you where your driver is like there used to be. It was a nightmare. But my question, first of all, has to do with booking online. When I book online, apparently I don't have the option to say that I need a wheelchair van. So the day that I got left and because they sent a car and I had booked online for that ride, they said, well, when you book online, you can't choose the wheelchair option. So can someone look into that to make sure that that's added? I mean, that seems to me like a no-brainer that should be added. And I meant to bring it up and I just kept forgetting. So many things on my mind.
Agreed.
So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to say about the mask wearing, I think if somebody does need, because of their respiratory situation and they're susceptible, such as I am, I'm very susceptible, I have to be careful. If I need passengers to wear a mask and the T can't make them wear a mask because of the FTA, which I understand, then we should be able to say, hey, listen, because of my susceptibility, I need a reasonable accommodation. I can't be paired with a passenger unwilling to wear a mask. So that might be something the T looks into, because it's very rare. It's a real fear, because COVID, when you get it, even if you get cured from it or recover from it, there's long COVID, and nobody wants to get that. So it's something I think the T, and I do understand, Michelle, you have to follow the regulations, but there are things you can put in place to reduce that. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I believe that there are many ways to address the problem, and we're certainly willing to meet and discuss if there are any other options that we can offer. And part of me wants to throw ideas out there, but I can't just yet, but I would love to follow up.
Okay, that would be great. From Laura Sabatini in the chat, I think that's a great idea, Peter. And I think that is a great idea, something to explore.
Yes, I was going to say, I do. I like the ideas. I encourage you to share them with us. Immediately, what comes to mind is we're struggling with operators to begin with. And were we fully staffed, that might be something we could explore, but separately with our TAG members and Peter, we owe you a follow-up, because I'd like to be certain we capture your concerns, that we review your file and your records, and we make sure everything is up to date and accurate, and that we're able to fully tackle, what you have shared with us. And I understand that you haven't traveled recently. So I am hopeful that once they circle up with my team, we can take a look at that and see that we've made adjustments.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
And, but I just wanted to let you know, I feel your pain when it comes to shortages of staff, because there's a nursing shortage, as you know, a nationwide nursing shortage, and that affects my agency where I work. So I know what it's like. It's
honestly, if I have pages of what our providers are doing to recruit and retain existing staff, from recruitment bonuses to performance incentives to marketing campaigns, outreach with local trade schools and colleges. It's a difficult market.
Really is.
And worth sharing here, and I may have done that at the last RTAG meeting, but what we're being told is for every 100 applicants, that it works its way down to 1 or 2 hires. And we are not even keeping up with attrition.
I mean, it's the same. I use personal care assistants to get my needs met so I can get up and be ready for work every day. I can't find, I've been looking, it's just, like you said, it's bad out there. And so I feel your pain. Because I've experienced it from multiple angles. So I know what it's like.
Thanks, Peter. Definitely, we are definitely in some hard times. Nora?
Hi, what's prompting this question was the distribution of the phone number for complaints. And one of the things that may be resulting in people not filing complaints is the fact that there's no reference to the ride on the phone greeting. when you call that number. In fact, while I was waiting, I called it just to make sure that I was correct. And when you call that number, it tells you it's the MBTA, it tells you to press 1 if you want to proceed with English. And then you're asked if you want to speak to somebody about schedules and maps or something like that. And then you're given 2 more options. One, to speak to a representative for subway, bus, and ferry service. And then you're given another option to speak to somebody regarding commuter rail service. The ride is never mentioned. And I have a suspicion, a very strong suspicion, that somebody calling that number and not hearing a reference to the ride is going to think that they've made a mistake and that they're calling the wrong place. And I think if you want to make this an easier process and a friendlier process for ride users to use that system, there needs to be an explicit reference to the ride in that phone system.
Taking notes here.
Nora, that
Thank
is-
you, Nora.
Thank you, Nora. That I've called the complaint line many, many times, and I have never noticed that.
Thank you.
That's what you pay me for. Whoops.
I was going to say, I can tell you, when I say that we collaborate with many other departments, I do meet with Carla House, who leads the customer service team, at least once a month. And I can speak to her about that, the phone tree that you're speaking to. And I will, after we're done with this meeting, step through it on my own to hear all of those options. But I can speak to our team and to customer service about that. That was a great suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks, Nora.
I know that before, when the number was the 512.
Sorry, hold on, Peter. Is that Peter?
Yeah, I was just gonna,
Hold on, Peter. We got to spotlight you. There you go.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, to follow up on Nora's point, when the number was 5123, it always said the ride, because I used to file many complaints there. In fact, it would tell you if you wanted, if you needed to know where your ride was, you'd push that option. If you wanted to file concerns, you'd push that option. So it sounds like they've done away with those options that used to be there, and that's going to confuse the heck out of consumers, and that's not good. So
I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were still speaking.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I may be speaking a little out of turn here because this predates my arrival. But some of what we've spoken to in the past with customer concerns was centralization. And I know that there had been a team at the ride that took phone calls, and that was all centralized at customer service. As I said before, that we do interact with them often. The complaints do come in, are passed through. By the way, I encourage you all to pass along commendations as well. I'm always happy to share those. But we can speak with customer service about what you're experiencing on those phone lines.
Yeah, I mean, the number I used to call was not the ride number now. This was the MBTA directly, and it would give you options, whether you wanted commuter rail or ride, and then they would give you several options.
That is something that I would like to explore a little bit further because that does predate my arrival.
It does.
But
I give you the number. The number we used to call was 617-222-5123. I remember it because it's written on the ride doors. So if you've done away with that number and didn't keep the full menu when you did away with it, hopefully you can restore that. The menu, at least.
I would be happy to investigate and explore when that was and why it changed. But I would believe that it has something to do with centralizing everything at the customer service level. We can follow up.
Michelle,
Mike?
may I jump in here? I just called.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Mike is our historian, so Mike can speak to all of these issues.
I'm
Thanks.
holding back so many sarcastic comments.
Hello, everybody. Mike Ulak, Director of Paratransit Operations. Peter, yes, you're correct. Number one, 617-222-5123. The number is still active. It does go into a hunt group. However, that's not the number that is given out to the public nowadays, as everything does go through customer service. And that changed probably about 4 years ago or so, when we went to customer service handling all ride complaints. You might remember that was a significant change for our paratransit customers. Additionally, I just called into the customer service number 617-222-3200. And right after it does say bus, subway, and ferry, the call does go on hold for one moment, and then it transfers you to a different hunt group. And it does ask if this is a ride fare problem or complaint and so forth. So the ride is indicated there, but it is a few menus back, if you will. It's probably something that we should look into, Michelle. It
Yeah.
can be clarified or cleaned up, as it does not say, please hold, we're going to transfer you to the ride agency or assistant and so forth. But I can assure you it does indicate the ride there for complaints.
I like both options, honestly, if we can take a look at that routing and make it more efficient. And again, it's a matter of communication. Maybe we could identify online on our website the steps that you have to go to submit a complaint.
Sure, and we have removed that 5123 number from all vehicles many years back as well.
But we know that Peter will remember it.
Sure thing. It's hard.
Hey, I'm like an elephant.
Me
This
too,
is Nora.
unfortunately. Yep.
This is Nora again. I just wanted to chime in and follow up on that. Honestly, when after it mentioned commuter rail, you hear the phone ringing again. And I hung up before I got to that other phone tree level. There has to be something. I mean, I work at a business where we know that we need to make our accessibility information no more than one click down from the homepage. The ride should not be referenced until it shouldn't be pushed a couple of levels down in the phone menu. It should be given the same billing as commuter rail, ferry, bus, and subway service.
I hear you and I agree. And I can tell you I'm certain that Megan is madly scribbling notes about this right now. She's really done a lot already with respect to taking a look at our information and communications and making improvements, bringing everything up, making it more current, pushing out information more often. So this is definitely something that we will look at. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And no disagreement, Nora, whatsoever. I think what happened was we were added after the fact, once that tree was originally designed, and that's why we're at the rear end of the call tree.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Elizabeth. And then David.
Yes, thank you. So this is Elizabeth Jean Clower again. A couple of follow-ups. I totally agree with Nora that it needs to be on the same level as the commuter, subway, those other options. Because I have slogged through. I actually did know you could leave a complaint, but it felt like it was a few menus deep, or had an element of ambiguity to it. And so I do think even as an equity issue, equality issue, it needs to be up at that same level, because Michelle, we do appreciate that you take complaints seriously. And if some people, it used to be that some people stopped filing complaints because it seemed like nothing ever changed. I think if one of the issues that might be happening instead is if people aren't even reaching a complaint line easily, then that's one problem. And then it reminds me, I don't know if it was clarified, but as not on the same tier of level of importance, but then there was also the issue of how well complaint information was captured. But that one I think we can discuss at an RTAG subcommittee level for an update on that portion. But so I think that that's a very important issue. And back to Peter's point about masks, naturally, we're not going to be in a situation where we can have someone who needs to have a mask and have others wear masks. We wouldn't know who they would be paired with. So I think it raises a good point, though. If someone has a level of whatever immune vulnerability where they feel they can have that subjectivity and the driver is already being required, then I think that person, there needs to be a reasonable accommodation, as he said, for then an individual ride, because you couldn't, since that other one is not possible to know who may or may not have a mask on. And that, frankly, as we know, that was never an absolute, that some people, by the nature of their medical condition and disability, cannot wear a mask. And so that exception was always made and understood, but explicitly stated. So to me, the resolution for that particular issue is for a small subset of riders who, are, I don't know how that would be determined by your staff ahead, but I think there should be some kind of a flag or language that someone, just as in a mobility situation, I'm routinely asked, do I have an equipment? Am I bringing a PCA? Which does pertain to my use of the ride. I think those are reasonable questions. I think there should be a way, and it's not somehow favoritism or reverse discrimination, that if somebody is in a situation where they are not able to use paratransit, if that's not adhered to with all the not only COVID, but the other respiratory illnesses that could send them to the hospital with very extreme circumstances. I hope that is something that your group will take up. And to end this set of questions and comments on a positive note, I would say what continues to be very much improved in a reproducible way is that the time for at certain times of the day, it's the rides seem to be better coordinated in some situations. Granted, I'm going from Boston to Boston, but there does seem to be better coordination with trips if they're shared, or better trip duration of not arriving excessively early or late, in my personal experience. So I think that's a positive.
Thanks.
I would really like to take credit for that. I can tell you that our teams are fully engaged, and we're facilitating meetings and relationships among all of the providers. And I think that we're seeing improved collaboration amongst the providers. And I'm really happy to see that. And we encourage it. So it's nice that you've reported back some of those positive results. Thank you.
David, and then if there's anyone else, we'd love to hear more about how it's going, but I'm also wondering if maybe we schedule maybe in a few weeks or next month to try and do something during the day, because I wonder if maybe sometimes we're missing some folks doing the evening meetings too. So David.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Michelle, I think it might be good if you perhaps could let folks know about a couple of things we've been discussing recently on the RIDE subcommittee. One was that, as I said, recently, a couple of people contacted me who had, were pretty similar situations in terms of their disability. And they, were in the situation where they had to renew their ADA ride eligibility. One person, fortunately for him, was able to do it, get it arranged to do it in a 5-minute phone call within about a week of when he first contacted the ride center. But then the second person, you know, had to come in for an in-person interview, maybe a month or 6 weeks later, and their ADA eligibility had already lapsed. So one, maybe talk a little bit about, you know, efforts that are being made to, you know, ensure that people are sort of treated equitably when it comes to renewing their ride eligibility. Second thing is, if you could talk also a little bit about efforts that hopefully will be made soon to use email more effectively in communicating with riders, particularly, you know, visually impaired riders. For seat drops, you know, we don't have access to those. We don't even know those seat drops are out there unless a driver tells us there's a seat drop here. And then also related to renewing the ride eligibility, the fact that people just get a little postcard. Even sighted people often miss that postcard. But blind folks, you know, they throw it out with the tons of other junk mail. So if you could talk about those two issues for a few moments, I think that would be good.
Okay. So we'll start with recertification. That a postcard is sent out. And I know you have expressed concerns related to email correspondence, and we're looking to capture that information on file, the customer's preference. And I know that Megan is looking at this. And that's one of the things I've led with determining what's the best way to communicate with individual customers. And we're looking to capture that information. That's first, and that's at the top of our list. Secondly, with respect to recertification, recertification is required every 3 years, and we do require in-person recertification. There are limited exceptions, and those exceptions are determined by our trained OTAs on site at the mobility center. And there are a variety of factors that are considered, the customer's condition, and how that, if it will change, and a number of other factors. But the recertification by phone is used for the is used in a very limited capacity. And that is not for me to make that determination, but we do follow, I believe it's the Easter Seals guidelines with respect to certification and recertification. So I know everybody would like to recertify by phone, but that's also an opportunity to come to the mobility center to capture information, personal information, update accounts, capture information about mobility devices, document any changes in conditions. Also to share literature, to share updated information, possible handouts. I think at this point now where we're looking to shift to self-service, it's more important than ever to be certain that we have accurate phone numbers, accurate emails. So that's recertification and certification. Did you ask about something else? I was scribbling out notes as you spoke, David.
No, it was about what you just said there, as well as the you know, using email more effectively for communicating with people.
We are working on that, and that is really at the top of the list. And then just to come full circle, I spoke earlier about we're going to begin offering shortly text options for ETA. It's optional for the customer to enroll in it. And that would be information, obviously, that would be pushed out regarding the ETA. And also when we speak to self-service, if you're calling from a phone number that we have on file, seeking your ETA, that will automatically be provided to you when our system recognizes your phone number.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have any other comments? If not, we'll wrap up early, but I think maybe we try doing our next listening session during the day. and see if we can get a little bit better turnout.
Can I just comment on recertification?
Sure, Peter, please.
Yeah, because I've done both the in-person and the phone. It's difficult for me for the in-person, especially now because I require my PCA now to meet me wherever I go. I don't have the same mobility. That's number one. But number two, I'm don't want to be anywhere where I could catch COVID either. I mean, that's a concern.
Yeah.
So I definitely,
Neither does
and
anybody.
I did the phone one before, and the phone one is just as effective. My disability, you know, a lot of us have disabilities that aren't going away. They're not going to change. It should, you know, there should be a balance. I mean, I can understand if you're meeting someone for the first time, yeah, you may want to see them in person. But when you know the passenger and the passenger's been there for years and years and their disability isn't going to change, there should be a way for that person to do it over the phone. So I just wanted to comment on that.
And I see Jerry Boy's hand raised as well. Peter, I can tell you, I know that there are several items we'd like to follow up with you separately about concerns you've expressed here. And we will be certain to do that. Thank you for sharing this information. And some of what we're doing here, the information we're collecting, I'm hoping that we can use that for some targeted information that we can share. Perhaps it's Q&As that we post on the website, but this is really helpful. Oh, I see more hands going up. Okay, I'm going to stop talking.
No, that's great. Jerry?
Yes, hi, thanks. I wanted to address your question about how you feel it's going when folks are calling into track. I didn't hear a lot of response on that, so I thought I would chime in. I was hoping that others would illustrate the point, but you know, when I've scheduled a ride recently, the hold times are I would say excessive, anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 minutes, and that's my main concern. You know, when somebody's quote unquote stranded or waiting for their ride, it might not even be very long, you know, but it might be, you know, the 15 minutes past their pickup time. We're always encouraged after 15 minutes, if your ride vehicle's not there, to call in and find out where they are. And you know, it sounds great that that you're pinging the vans in a more timely manner, and that you know, we're going to get that the ETA for our vehicle right up front when we call in. But if for whatever reason we need to speak with you know, a customer service agent, or have them get in touch with dispatch directly, have them get in touch with dispatch for us about you know, that ride or whatnot, you know, having to wait 10, 15, whatever minutes, that just you know, extends the ride and the worry even more. So I'd like to hear you know, what you're doing to minimize hold times for folks, because even just booking the ride, you have to wait, you know, an inordinate amount of time.
That's a great question. And I couldn't have said it any better. So I will lead with, we are not happy with the hold times that our customers are experiencing. We are aware that they have ticked up. And I start off by saying that there are staffing and recruitment challenges. I'm not making excuses, but that's what's driving some of what we're encountering with hold times. Again, scribbling out notes as we speak. So staffing is key. And we recognize that what we're doing right now isn't working. So we're taking a look at wages to see if we can attract additional candidates and retain and not lose staff through attrition. We are looking to improve productivity from the existing staff that we have. And that a number of things we're doing here with respect to monitoring performance, identifying opportunities real time for coaching to instruct our agents on how to deliver a service and respond more efficiently, more courteously. The quality assurance is part of those training and monitoring efforts. It's also empowering those agents to understand where they are and how they're performing, and again, to improve productivity. And then lastly, I say technology. And I don't hitch our wagon to technology as solving everything, but there are opportunities with artificial intelligence to route calls, to sense tone in our customers, in our agents, to operate more efficiently. All of these things we're doing at the same time. And we're hopeful that some of and self-service. If we offer additional opportunities for self-service for our customers, and this again is tied to technology, many of you know that we have this transportation management software, RFP, that the bidding has closed, that there is an RTAG subcommittee member, thank you, David, on our advisory committee. And we're hopeful that as we get to that technology, we're able to introduce additional self-service options for our customers, including that mobile app that was there for, I believe, a short time, and dispatch trips and monitor trips more efficiently. So I know I was kind of all over the board, but they're all related. The better our on-time performances, the lighter our calls are at our call center. The more productive, the higher productivity is at our call center, the more calls we can address, and the opportunities for self-service for those that don't want to wait on the phone or simply prefer to manage on their own. So we do have a number of efforts underway, and I am expecting within at least February that you're going to start seeing some of these improvements.
Thanks, Michelle. We have a few things in the chat I'd like to read out loud, and then we'll call on Laura. Cassandra, some folks have bad anxiety, so certain wait times past their expected pickup times trigger anxiety. So we call a few times to see where our rides are.
Can I just jump in real quick? With the system that we're proposing with the ETA, and it's being updated every 3 minutes, these customers can call and get an updated time every 3 minutes if they'd like.
Excellent. And then from Raymond, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'd like to echo the recertification points made by Peter. Since I've been unable to do the in-person due to both my power lift and wheelchair needing repairs and having to wait for the provider NSM to take care of those issues first. Ramon, I know you are certainly not alone with that issue. Thank you. That is a really important point about how a lot of these issues all intersect and affect one another. Thank you for sharing that. Did you want to say something, Michelle?
Well, I was just going to say thank you. I think it's important that we're aware of issues that customers would like to share with us that could potentially impact their ability to get to the mobility center.
Yeah, I think the ties, that worker shortage issue Peter's talking about, along with the long wait times for wheelchair repairs that have gotten really, really bad for a lot of folks. It all intercedes. So
I wasn't aware until this week about the wait for wheelchair repairs.
Yeah, it's been pretty.
It's a worse nightmare than it's a worse nightmare than trying to get someone at the ride. Wheelchair repairs, it's bad.
You're always.
I've been waiting since last year sometime to get this wheelchair repaired.
Yeah.
So,
May I ask, does it have to get shipped out?
no, actually, they came as recently as December 13th to repair it and found out they had the wrong parts. So they had to reorder all the parts.
And,
So,
and a lot of it has to do with.
but I'm on a committee too. I meet with NSM and a bunch of other consumers, and I meet with them to try and help them problem solving. Oh, and by the way, staffing is an issue.
Staffing and backordered parts is what I would have guessed.
And
Staffing too, yeah.
Medicare competitive bidding, if we really
So
also
it's,
throw that in
it's
there.
a generic, the thing about shortage, like I said, I can feel your pain because it's not just in one industry, it's in more than one industry.
It's everywhere. Yeah, thank you. Cassandra, another point from Cassandra. Would there ever be an opportunity to develop an app for Track and the Ride to order rides, load balances, etc., similar to Uber and Lyft?
Great question, Cassandra. So that was included in some of the specifications for the RFP that we posted for transportation management software. And when I speak to self-service options down the road, those are some of the things that we're looking at. And I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And we're as eager to see that as you are.
Right. And then this is a first from Wayne Spears. Hello to you all. My name is Wayne Spears, and I'm joining this call from Melbourne in Australia. I work at Yara Trams in Melbourne in the accessibility team. And I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to join your call and for sharing your experiences. It's been an invaluable opportunity for me to learn more about accessible transportation options in cities around the world. Welcome, Wayne.
Thank you for joining, Wayne.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. It's Friday morning here. It's nearly midday here, so I can tell you that Friday is a beautiful day. I guess I just wanted to, say thank you and share. I didn't want to take the opportunities for other people to share their experiences. I work in the accessibility team, and we have an accessibility reference group similar to this this forum as well. So we hear from members of the public. In Melbourne, we don't have a ride program as such, but we're looking at opportunities, of course, to expand the opportunity for public transport to be available to as many people as possible. And we've got discrimination laws, and we've got public transport standards, which we're trying to achieve. It certainly is something that we're working towards, but it really is a wonderful opportunity to hear everyone's experiences, and also opportunities for improvement that we share globally. Recruitment, retention, and also the COVID mask. We follow the government advice that's issued over here, so everyone's sort of following that, but we don't have a mandatory requirement, but it's certainly, there are still people wearing those, and the vulnerability of different members of the community is something that personally and others, do take into consideration. But thank you everyone for letting me join this call. It really is a wonderful opportunity. I hope to see you all again and be a part of this in the future as well.
Wayne, happy to provide my contact information, and I could speak for our team. We'd be happy to speak with you further.
Absolutely.
And Jennifer is here. I'm not sure if Laura's here, but our partners, System-Wide Accessibility is a separate department that we work with. So we're paratransit. And I have to tell you that the exciting Mobility Center venture, joint venture that partnered travel training with eligibility together under the same roof, to me was truly exciting, because I was making a very strong push in New Jersey, where I was before Boston, to do the same thing. So Boston beat us to New Jersey to many opportunities.
Oh.
I was
gonna make a Boston, New Jersey joke, but I will refrain.
I shouldn't, because some people from my old team are here. Not to say they weren't wonderful.
Careful.
But the Ride Flex program and the travel training are outstanding. I think those are exceptional. and a model for many of the paratransit agencies in the country.
Wayne, we'd love to chat with you, so feel free, we put our contact info.
I'll put mine in the chat as well. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Laura.
Hello, thank you. I am only talking again because Michelle, I noticed when Peter was talking about the recertification issue and getting in there in person and how hard it is, a couple of turns back now, you had said something about we'll follow up with you on that. I'm going to need you to follow up with me on that too, then, if it's going to be done on a case-by-case basis and not as a like broad policy that pretty much any of the riders can access. Which, you know, I'd prefer that it be a broad policy that any rider can access. But if we're going to do it case by case, then please follow up with me too, because I'm pretty sure my recertification is coming up. I've been waiting for my little postcard and haven't seen it yet. And if I have to go in again and wait and wait and wait and wait again in a room full of people without face masks, I just won't do it.
Just want to add in there that anybody that is going to the eligibility center is required to wear a mask when they're inside the building.
Why would they be? That is counter to what the state of Massachusetts has. There's no reason why they should have to, right?
We treat it like a medical facility.
Correct.
Okay. So as long as the state of Massachusetts Department of Public Health doesn't change the guidelines between now and when I go to recertify so that health facilities have to continue keeping masking in place, then it'll be fine. But right now, that's still up in the air. We don't know when that's going to change or if it's going to change, and I guess it probably will, is my guess.
Nicely said, Laura. I don't disagree with you.
Thank you.
That was something we felt very strongly about, carrying the mask policy forward for our customers. And like I had said earlier, is we carried it as long as we could until we were compelled to reverse the policy.
I get it. So if I go, what'll happen is, and again, we'll hope that it happens before Massachusetts gets rid of the mask policies in medical facilities, because, you know, again, that is something that is potentially in the offing. At some point they will do it. One of my issues is eating and drinking and staying hydrated enough that my blood pressure doesn't plummet and I don't pass out. So if I have to wait wearing a face mask, I can't drink. By the time I get seen, do you guys really want to deal with calling 911 just because I passed out because I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to. I hate passing out in public. It's part of why I take the ride when I have to. So again, if you're following up on a case-by-case basis, please follow up with me because I will need to be followed up with.
Okay, and I just want to be clear that it's not me or my direct reports that make that determination, that we have qualified, trained staff on site that review the files and make those determinations. But we could absolutely speak to you about how they make those determinations.
I would greatly appreciate that because I understood about half of what you just said now. So that would be fantastic. Thank you.
I can provide a little bit more information here.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Hold on,
Sure.
Elizabeth. Are you on camera? Do we need to spotlight you?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thanks.
So just to be clear, we do have a policy that applies equally to all customers. And the same way we determine your ride eligibility on a case-by-case basis based on your functional abilities. We determine whether you are eligible to be to have an expedited recertification based on your unique and individual needs. That is applied, blanket to everyone. We do not make special exceptions based on request. There's a long list of criteria that one has to check to be eligible for expedited recertification. Those include having a disability that will never foreseeably get better regardless of any change in treatment or mobility device. Also includes never being able to foreseeably use the fixed route, again, regardless of any new treatment or mobility device. It's more nuanced than that, but that's my best high-level explanation of how it is given out and how it is not. And in the cases that have been brought to us recently where someone did get it and someone didn't, we've looked into every case and it's always been clear why someone was given it and someone was not.
Elizabeth, what exactly is your role?
I'm the Deputy Director of Innovation and Analysis on the RIDE team.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying. And I'm just gonna, I need to editorialize briefly. Just, I appreciate you clarifying that, but I will say that I don't appreciate you saying that it's applied equally, and talking about it as if it's some kind of special privilege or favor. That's something that generally, an accommodation is not a favor. It's not a privilege. I realize and recognize that it needs to be reviewed as an accommodation or as a request, but I strongly dislike the perpetuating the notion that is somehow a favor that's done or a privilege or something special.
I'm not sure that I think of it that way, so I'm sorry if I communicated that.
It may have been inadvertent. I just felt like I needed to comment on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Elizabeth Dienklauer?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, you're all set.
Great. Yes, I had wanted to ask, going back to that issue of whether with masks, given that several people have voiced the concern about masks, and Michelle has made it clear that that's an FTA requirement. But in other ways, aren't there ways where what's happening at a state level can be that states have that some things are mandated nationally, but given even local conditions, if you want to call it that, because I still was surprised to learn that some aspects related to COVID public emergency or COVID language, certain things even now in 2023 have not been lifted yet in certain circumstances. So I wonder, given that we're also a northern state as well, that not everyone, not only nationally, not everyone has paratransit systems, let alone, hello to Wayne, thank you for joining us, let alone internationally, but could a case be made, and I know that's outside the, for discussion now, but if people with Michelle and Jessica, with your legal background and others, is there a way a case could be made in Massachusetts, given that it's selectively, there are certain components of even how things were handled differently during COVID, such as COVID public health emergency. Is there a way that that might be addressed differently, but outside of this forum?
I think that's definitely a conversation we can chat with later and play around with.
I would only add that we researched it extensively and would be happy to have a later conversation.
And Elizabeth, I'm happy to talk also.
Yeah, yeah.
So next we have Jerry.
Here we go. Thank you. I just wanted to add my 2 cents to what Elizabeth was saying. I do know that different cities, different municipalities have the ability to invoke, mask mandates depending upon the risk level that their county or their city or their town may be in at the moment. Those of us who live in Boston were aware that may be aware that a couple of weeks ago, the city was raised to the highest risk level, and there was talk at that time of instituting a mask mandate indoors. That never happened, but I do know that municipalities do have that ability, let alone at the state level. So, but I do know for the ride purposes, where the ride is in so many different cities and towns, that it would be really impossible to be like, okay, Boston has a mask mandate, but Melrose doesn't, or Dedham has one, but Weymouth doesn't, so it would be very, very difficult. But again, maybe we can, put our heads together some more and keep talking about the issue. I really appreciate everyone bringing it up today.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. And I know that I've read New York, that the riders are expressing concern and lobbying for a reinstatement of masks on board all of New York's mass transportation. So I understand that that's a concern in a lot of areas.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Michelle. So I don't see any more hands. But we do have another question in the chat. And then if we don't have any more comments, we can go ahead and wrap up. Sorry, I just scrolled past it. Sorry. When is the new program user starting? And is it going to be like the Uber, Lyft, and how will I be able to sign up? I think that's an excellent question.
That is a great question to close on too, because I had mentioned that there are a lot of things we're doing. We're really excited about user. We consider it a standard NDSP, which is non-dedicated service provider. They will offer ADA level service. They will adhere to the same training requirements as our dedicated service providers. The cars will be operated by individual drivers with their own cars, but the cars will be marked. The drivers will be wearing a vest that indicates ride, and they will have identification. And it's going to be used initially to offer some relief to the challenges that our dedicated service providers are encountering. Sorry, did somebody say something?
It's all set.
Okay. And we're going to roll it out very slowly beginning in February. And David or Elizabeth, if there's anything else you'd like to add. Otherwise, I would open the floor to any additional questions.
I'll just add one thing quickly. People have been talking about hold times and this and that. If you've never visited the website to either book a ride, schedule a ride, or put more money in your account, do that. You can do it in 1 minute, which is half the time of a hold on an extremely good day for the phone. So it's just so great to schedule online versus having to do long hold times.
Is that David?
Yes, it is.
David, thank you for that. And one of the things that we've discussed internally is, as we look to introduce additional technology, offering some type of training or outreach via our mobility center to instruct our customers on some of this new technology as we look to introduce it.
Can I just make one last comment on
Sure.
the technology? I would, because I don't do text very well on the phone because of my limited finger mobilities, I would hope you would ask the designer not to make it solely for the telephone, but also for, like I use my desktop. I need to be able to access things from the computer. So there should be an app that I can download on the computer, and that way, when this new technology comes out that you were speaking about earlier, that you have an RFR out for, that be included.
There's nothing more important than including our end users and how we build these systems. So thank you.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Thank you.
Hey, Michelle, I have a question. This is Elizabeth, the one who wrote the question about the new program. Hi, I was just wondering, are these vehicles, are they going to be like accessible vehicles? And are they also going to be $3 like the pilot program?
These vehicles are not going to be offered through demand like Uber and Lyft. These are going to be part of the the standard fleet. They're going to augment the fleet. And it will be the regular paratransit fare, regular ride fare.
Yeah, just want to emphasize what Michelle said, that this isn't a separate program, just additional vehicles that will be available for our standard ADA service.
So I could get a scooter or a chair onto the vehicle.
They do
Yes.
have wheelchair accessible vehicles, yes.
Okay, so it'll just be in addition to what we have already.
Exactly. It will
Okay,
look
great.
slightly different. We do have literature and we're going to be posting information online as well.
Okay,
regarding
great. Thank you so
expectations.
much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your question.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That was a great question. Okay, if we don't have any other questions or comments, I think we can go ahead and wrap up for this evening.
Okay, can I just give a shout out first of all to all the customers that participated. Thank you. It's important to me to be able to hear you and respond. And you really put me on the spot, and I appreciate that. But you're posing a lot of questions that gives us pause to think about what we're doing, how we implement, and how we can best address your needs. And then the other shout out is simply to the team. Thank you. Thank you for jumping in. They're the people that are doing all of the heavy lifting. Elizabeth did so much work with the Mobility Center. David did so much work with Ride Flex. I should shout out to everybody, but Mike, thank you for jumping in. I appreciate it. Thanks again, because it really is an incredible, dedicated team that kicks in these nights for these meetings. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So just some quick closing points. So our next meeting will be Thursday, February 16th at 5:30. The link to register can be found on the RTAG page on the T website. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at rtagboston@bostoncil.org. And yeah, we'll see you all in a couple weeks in February. Thank you.
So wait a minute, your email is the RTAG one? Because
That's the RTAG email, Peter. You see, you have
oh, so both emails work.
Both come to me. Both come to me.
Okay, because I'm still waiting
Thank
for
you,
you to
everyone.
call me back about the meeting you want.
Peter, I'm gonna give you a call after this meeting. I can tell you what.
Well, my phone's off right now because I'm about to go to bed, but just email me tomorrow or something.
I'll send you an email tonight. I'm working evenings, Peter, that's why.
Oh, I didn't know. All right.
That's why.
Bye.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.